The script we're reading tonight is Betrayal in Beckenham by Linda Macdonald, adapted from her novel A Meeting of a Different Kind. This is episode 1, Not the Philandering Type. Beckenham, Southeast London, 2003. Exterior Coppercone Lane, night 2035. That's a very precise time. Taryn, 46, marches out of her ground floor flat, oldish property, carrying a box of Scrabble, which she flings down the pavement towards Mark, 39, heading towards his BMW parked in the road. She is a tiny woman, attractive, smartly dressed, and with a trademark spiky hairdo that frames her face. She is feisty and a borderline manic depressive, which we discover later. She looks furious.
And you can take your fucking Scrabble with you.
Mark bends down and starts scooping up tiles. He is tall, muscular, and tanned. He wears a t-shirt and jeans. He's hurriedly pressing buttons on his phone. He has a south-east London accent and a bit of a geezer.
Stupid bitch, there's no need for that.
Karen stalks down the pavement towards him and jabs at the tiles with her stiletto.
I always knew you were a bastard. I hoped I was wrong. You said you'd change.
You are wrong. I wouldn't have moved in with you if I hadn't changed. It was a bloody text. I'm not crawling into bed with her.
There's no such thing as an innocent text exchange with an ex-girlfriend.
What's wrong with how are you?
Love, Mark. Love.
It's just a word.
Texts are only innocent if you're making arrangements. Anything else with the opposite sex is flirtatious.
These are mad rules invented by you, Taryn. Other people text all the time. It means nothing. You're showing your age. I can text till I bloody want to text.
Which is why our relationship can't possibly sustain.
Oh, get off, you high horse woman.
Mark gets into his car and drives off with a screech of tyres. Taryn dusts off her hands, throws back her shoulders and stalks back to the flat with much wiggling of hips. She glares at a neighbour who is watching through a window with a cat in her arms. Cut to interior Taryn's flat, night 2040. Taryn shuts the door of her flat and begins to tidy up, a trail of escaped clothes. Titles could play over this scene. She rushes from room to room, showing only anger, no tears. Speed up the action, cutting from one room to the next as she cleans the bathroom with a lot of bleach and sprays, strips the bed and puts on fresh linen, bundles the removed linen into the washing machine in the kitchen, and then starts vacuuming the rest of the flat. It's clear that she wants to eradicate every trace of Mark and that she might have a touch of OCD cleanliness. Cut to exterior Coppercone Lane, night 2200. The lights go out one by one in other properties along Coppercone Lane, but the lights in Taryn's flat continue to shine. Cut to Broadcliff, Devon, exterior Deer Orchard, day 8:50. Establishing shots of the outside of the deer orchard. It's something of an old converted farmhouse with outbuildings and extensions. There is a rough garden with some areas cultivated to vegetables, also an overgrown orchard and a paddock in which there are 2 goats and a small hen coop. It's the beginnings of a small holding. Cut to interior Deer Orchard, kitchen, day 800 hours. The kitchen is large and well equipped, chrome and modern, with double oven, breakfast bar, central workstation and a dining table. Pans hang on the wall. It's a serious kitchen for serious cooks. Felicity, 47, long wavy boho hair, wearing a smart suit with a tea towel over her skirt, is multitasking, making cooked breakfast, watering herbs, unloading the dishwasher. Edward, 47, attractive in a mildly geeky way, dark hair now greying slightly, is suited and sitting at the table reading a newspaper. 4 children sit on stools around the breakfast bar eating cereal or toast. 2 Springer Spaniels, Clint and Grike, trot hopefully from person to person.
By the way, Ted, I've handed in my resignation.
Edward stops reading, shocked. Conversation proceeds in relatively hushed tones because of the children.
What? Why? Are you sure about this?
It's the only way I'll have time to carry through my plans.
Your plans?
Things have changed because of Mummy's money. I've always wanted a restaurant.
I think we should discuss it before you do anything hastily.
You're never here at the right time, Ted. My plans have been on hold since we met.
Edward is about to speak when the background chatter from the children catches his attention.
The fattest one of us here is Mum.
Chris?
With charm like that, you may have difficulty getting a girlfriend.
Mum is so not fat. Curvy is the new thin.
What's curvy?
You'll understand in a year or two.
Felicity stalks over to Edward and puts down his cooked breakfast rather firmly.
What's up with her?
I am here, James. If you must talk about me, save it for later.
Felicity removes the tea towel from her waist, winds her hair into a rope and secures it with a slide. Edward catches her eye and tries to smile, but she turns away.
I wonder if Dad's fan club is fat.
Who's Dad's fan club?
Dad's fan club is called Fan Club.
But who is she?
Edward gives a warning glance to Harriet, and the children begin melting away from the table, gathering their stuff and being shooed from the house by Felicity. Cut to exterior Deer Orchard, day 8:50. Edward walks from the house to let 3 buff Orpington hens out of a small coop in the paddock and collect eggs. He returns to the house and reappears with 2 spaniels. They walk through the paddock to check the goats and then over a stile at the bottom and head into the lane for a walk. Edward looks preoccupied and worried. Cut to exterior playground, day 8:55, shows signage outside Blackbrook High School in Beckenham. Taryn, smartly besuited and made up, not a stereotypical teacher style, more corporate, is on early morning playground duty with Kimberly, early 20s, blonde, ditzy, pert, fluffy pink. They stand just outside the school doors. Secondary school children are arriving slowly, chatting, pushing. They're in moderately tight, untidy uniforms and carry a variety of bags. Some say, "Hello, miss," as they pass through the doors.
He's a commitment phobic, and so am I. There was no love involved. I don't know how you can be so calm. I'd be in pieces if Jace and me broke up. I don't cry, though I did when I was 10. My hamster died. I cry at the drop of a hat. I get upset even if Jace looks at me in a cross way. I'm like a tap. I'm not sure I'm cut out to live with anyone. He said I'd be too long on my own.
Cut to flashback, interior Taryn's flat night. Taryn and Mark are in the small, neat, but well-equipped kitchen. She's drying dishes while he hovers. Tempers are frayed.
There's no level of tolerance with you.
And you think I should tolerate you leaving pubic hairs in the bath?
It's hardly a crime.
You never clean the loo, or pick up your clothes, or cook supper.
Bollocks, Taryn. This is real life. I'm not perfect, but nor are you. You're obsessed with cleaning, bleaches, disinfectants. I don't want to live in an antiseptic environment and get asthma. It's amazing you're so good at sex.
And what about you and the remote?
It's a man thing.
Well, it's not a man thing I want in my flat.
Your flat?
It is my flat. I pay the mortgage and the maintenance.
Fuck you, Taryn.
Fuck yourself, Mark.
Fade out of flashback back to present and into the playground with Taryn and Kimberly.
It was when I caught him texting his ex-floozy that I exploded. He thought he could have all the benefits of living with me but carry on like a single man.
Bell rings, cut to exterior University of Devon day. Edward drives his silver Volvo past the sign for the University of Devon. It's an undulating, landscaped and scenic campus, a new university evolved more technic. A few students are drifting around. Edward drives to a car park and slots his car into a space between a white sports car and a Fiat Uno. He takes his briefcase out of the boot and walks towards a glassy rectangular block, identifying itself as the Scatwood building. Cut to interior Scatwood building day. Edward goes to the building, down a corridor and past a sign saying Department of Archaeology to an office with Dr. Edward Harvey, head of department, on a plate on the door. He goes in, dumps his coat and briefcase, opens the internal door to adjoining office where his PA, Gemma, mid-40s, prim, straight back hair, thin and stiff in a high-neck blouse, is standing by a filing cabinet.
Morning, Gemma.
Good morning, Edward.
Edward reverses back through his office and into a concourse where there are a few comfortable chairs, tea urn, tea coffee making facilities, and a photocopier. Conrad, 49, scruffy bearded, thick grey ponytail, an authority on women, is photocopying.
Felicity's resigned. Told me this morning. Wants to open a damn restaurant. No discussion, just a statement of fact. Still keeping the shutters down, is she? It'll be a change, mate. They go weird. My Sandra suddenly didn't want to know. She was always red hot. When a marriage is on the rocks, the bed's where the rocks are. Now, if she does her thing, I do mine. What about one of your girls called Fan Club? Great name. Any chance there? But Marianne? Marion? I don't know. I haven't seen her since we were 11. It's been emails and more emails, not even a photograph. And she's married. Don't tell me you haven't thought about it. About giving her one, sorry. No, Conrad, I hadn't. She wasn't anything special. And some of her emails are a bit left field. It's time you met. I've tried. First meeting cancelled because daughter's boyfriend was killed in a crash. Second time, it snowed and the trains were all over the place. Those upcoming May's lectures at the PM may provide another opportunity. Willow. Find out if she's same or has a kangaroo loose in the top paddock. She contacted you first, didn't she? I wonder what her ulterior motives are. Why should there be any? She said she had, sorry about this, guys, it's just so light on here. She said she had a tough time at school, and she said exchanging emails reminded her of the good times. Laid the ghost to rest, as it were. Laid? There you had it. Remember, she's a psychologist. Planting such thoughts in your mind. Bloody hell, Conrad.
Cut to exterior Deer Orchard night. Location shots show the outside of the house with Edward's car parked outside next to a hatchback. Felicity's lights are on in some downstairs and 2 upstairs windows. And that's the end of our excerpt. Okay, who wants to start off with this? Catherine, how about you start off with your feedback?
Yeah, well, my first time of being an observer and not a reader, so new for me, experience-wise. It was interesting. I would like to know what happens next. I got a lot of visuals from it without having to look at the script, which was a good sign. A little bit difficult to follow in places. I'm not sure if that's just because I wasn't reading the script at the same time and I was just listening and picturing. The back and forth within the times, I found a little bit difficult to follow at times, but again, that could just be simply because I wasn't looking at the script. But it definitely sounds interesting, and there were good visuals in there. The characters, most of them sounded pretty well written, and they sort of quite well rounded so far. Not much happening within the first 10 pages of this, but I am interested to find out more.
Okay,
I couldn't quite decipher what kind of genre it was, to be honest with you. But other than that, it sounded interesting.
Yeah, thank you for that. Emma.
I thought, please, Linda, number your pages. I would like you to do that. It would be a real help. Mark says, just a few little things that I noticed, and a few questions. Mark says, "Get off," and I'm just wondering whether this is more of a Northern English thing, because it's stated very specifically where he's from, isn't he? And I just think that mostly whenever I've heard it, it's been from people further up than London. But I mean, that might be that I'm completely wrong with that. I tried to look it up, and it's a bit uncertain, actually. I just wonder if he's actually mocking Taryn's northernness, that when she's unguarded, her Yorkshire comes out. So I wondered if he was doing that or not. It's nice to see some older characters, because we read a lot of things with quite youthful people. So it's nice to see some work for older actors. I think it's very funny that the dogs are named well before the children. That's rather fun. And yeah, it just made me laugh that one child was called a red wine mistake, who seems to be the most sort of irritating child for his parents. I did think there was a lot. I mean, and probably if you're just listening to it being read, maybe that's a good thing. But there's a lot of description, and I wondered if we needed quite so much. I mean, this is where you can really see that it's from a novel, I think, because for example, you could just say it's a serious kitchen for serious cooks or something. But there's a lot of description about all the stuff they've got in there that I wondered, how necessary. People's accents are pinpointed very specifically. And I wondered, casting wise, these very exact ages, these very exact descriptions of where they come from, whether that's closing more doors than you need. I was curious about University of Devon. I thought, I wonder why it's not a real one. And so that was quite curious. It's a bit like in those 19th century novels where they put, I was in the town of L with a line. I just wondered why it was a pretend university. Kimberly's got a southeast London accent. Edward parks between. Why do we care what he parks between? It's just very strange. There's a white sports car and a Fiat Uno. So yeah, I kind of think it'd be nice to leave some leeway for actors and directors and designers and people. But I understand also that when you write, sometimes you don't want to let it go any sooner than you really have to. So yeah, I do understand that, but it'd be nice to just sort of let the characters show themselves in their actions and through their words rather than have them described.
Thank
But
you.
I do want to know what happens next. I am interested.
It may well be important to what happens next. You never know.
Yeah, it could be, couldn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Could be a certain
John.
thing about parking.
John.
Yeah, sorry, I just put a grape in. I concur with what's been said. Very rounded characters, very well thought out. I'm a little bit confused when we first go to Broadclist that we start at the orchard at 8:50 and then we're inside at 8 o'clock. I'm wondering mayhap that should be 7:50 and then inside for 8 o'clock. I don't know. Because later on we go back to 8:50. So that was a little bit of a bounce backwards and forwards. Intentional or not, I don't know, but kind of hooked on this. Would be very interested to see where it was going. And I apologise for reading two characters at once, but the script was grey against grey on my television. That's all.
No, thank you for that. Stewart.
Yeah, just a tiny point, that bit about the deer orchard. It says interior deer orchard kitchen, and that kind of threw me. Hang on, are we outside, inside? Why are you calling the deer orchard the kitchen? I don't. Shouldn't it be Broadclist kitchen? I don't know. It just jumped out to me a bit like, oh, where are we?
I think Deer Orchard is the name of the farmhouse.
Oh, is it? Right, okay.
But it's not clear, is it? It's not made clear.
It says establishing shots of the outside of the deer orchard. Oh, okay. It's something. Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, I see. So it's the house name. I got you. Right. Okay, so Broadclist is the area in Devon, is it?
Yeah, Broadclist is a part of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
It's a. Yes.
I thought generally it kind of jumped out that this was kind of some Sunday night drama that's setting up, with quite a top cast. I can see this, these sort of perfect life being set up, with sort of posh accents and things, and these fabulous kitchens and establishing shots of locations and things. So I can sort of see where this is pitched at. But again, it's interesting to see where this story goes and whether Taryn, does set up her restaurant and what she does with her mum's money, and I can see that's probably the story going later on. So it's kind of a setup script as far as I can see. But the characters came out of the page and were quite clear. A bit too much description, as other people have said, but a bit of trimming, and I think it's pretty good.
Perfect. Thank you, Stuart. Erin.
Oh yeah, I agree with everyone too. And what Stuart was saying too, I know I marked that down, the deer orchard. Like, part of it looks like it's an interior exterior that needs to be more established. Like, instead of when he returns into the house, it should just be a no scene heading, like interior interior dear orchard house day. But also I think there was some explanation of like almost like a quick shots up that should be like separated so that lots of bleach sprays, strips the bed, puts fresh linen, things like that. Maybe like dashes or ABC or something like there. And the descriptions too, like unless it's like Emma said, like super necessary to like the story, you could tighten that up a lot. And I think that the dialogue's really interesting, like the characters are really interesting. It's well written. I enjoyed it. I'm interested to see what happens next as well. So.
Oh, thank you. I'm just going to turn my light on because I think I'm fading into the background there. There we are. Okay, let me see. What did I put down? Yes, the description. Several of us have said there's too much description. I think it's also that some of the description is description of like the inside of the kitchen and what they're wearing and how many pans are up there and all of that. When you view that as compared to the action where someone is actually physically doing something, there's the physically doing something has to be, if you like, more than the description of the premises. You have to think in terms of how much time is this going to take. And right now you've got a description of a kitchen which is kind of taking up 20 seconds of screen time as we stare around this kitchen. That's not going to happen. I'm telling you now. So and I know you want people to talk over the top of that, and I'm being very pedantic about the whole thing, but yeah, too much description. Page numbers, I've written that down as well. You don't need the cut to. Really, genuinely, you don't include cut to unless it's absolutely like a real punch in the face cut, in which case you're kind of going, cut to, you know, it's that kind of thing. I would say go online or get a good book, or just Google some first draft, second draft scripts and look at the format, because the cut tos and the spacers and everything, you're taking up too much space on the page, really, essentially. And also you've got, let's say, for instance, we're on page 4 with the cut to Broadclist, Devon, exterior Deer Orchard, day 8:50. Not sure why we've got the times. And your point, Stuart, about there's an 8:50 and then an 8. Who was that? You made that point, or someone? John, you made that point. Sure. Is why have we got an establishing shot for a flashback? That's essentially what's happening there. That's that's an establishing shot in the future. So I'm not sure you need those times in at all. There may be a good reason for it. If there is, then I don't know. I'm not seeing it at the moment. I think just more clarity on your scene headings like that. That really should be exterior Deer Orchard House, Broadclist, Devon, day. In your title. Also, you can put at the end to establish or establishing in your scene heading. So just it's very straightforward. Just get a good book or Google or go on the internet and check out formatting. What else have I put? I've put parenthesis. Your characters, you're setting up characters in parenthesis underneath the character heading before the dialogue. You don't do that. Just put it in the action before. Just say whoever it is. I mean, here we've got Christopher. You've got Edward is about to speak when the background chatter from the children catches his attention. Then you've got Christopher, and in parenthesis, 10 glasses red wine mistake. That should be in the action above. You know, you should be saying he's about to speak when the background chatter from the children catches his attention, or Christopher catches his attention, and then you put 10 glasses, you know, that kind of thing. And again with Rachel. So you need those, you need to establish them before they speak. And you can't kind of include, if you've got more than a couple of words in your parentheses under the character, then stick it in action instead. So Felicity turning from the stove to glare at her youngest son. I wouldn't have put all that in brackets. I would have put that above, or even just let the actors work out what they're going to do there themselves. Give them something to do. Don't tell them everything, every breath that they need to take. I think that's all I've written down actually here. Yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. But I would like to know what happens. I think they are interesting characters. But it's hard to say at the moment. Like, who said they didn't know what genre it was? It's hard to say. Yeah, it's really tough to say.
It depends on how it's done. There were some witty remarks there and here and there, so it could be leading to a soft comedy or even a dark comedy. It depends on how it's done.
It's not going to be like tea time, call the midwife time.
I wouldn't have said it was daytime television. No.
It might be a crime drama.
Could be crime.
The times are there. Perhaps it's. I'm going to.
It could be.
Forget them, but you know, I just wonder if it's something to do with that.
But one point about these times: how is anybody going to know that that is the time? Because you're essentially giving those direction for the director and the actors, but you're not saying.
I imagined it being on the screen, so yeah, I just assumed it was on screen.
So if it's on screen, it needs to be super.
Yeah. But there was nothing in the actual things that we were reading that bore any relevance to time.
Because that's what
it's difficult to know when you don't know.
Maybe it's sci-fi time travel. Maybe it might have a massive, difference.
Yeah. I had a question about the flashback on the bottom between Mark and Taryn, because it takes place in 2003 or whatever, but like when the flashback, she's like talking to Kimberly or whatever, and it flashes back to a conversation between her and Mark, and then supposedly I guess it goes back or whatever. Like is that like something recent? I was curious, or have they been together like a long time, so it's like a while ago or something?
Yeah, that's what I meant. It was a little difficult to follow at times with it.
Yeah, with the
it wasn't. I wasn't sure which way we were supposed to be in, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
What time we were in.
That's a very good point. Yes. So the times need sorting out, don't they? And there is one point towards the end, and I can't find it right now, where it's we're sailing along in the scene. It's when the kids are talking. We're sailing along in the scene, and then we go into a flashback mid-scene, but there's no delineation between that scene and the flashback.
Yeah.
No scene heading, in other words. So just needs some clarity, I think, in those things. But great. Thank you so much anyway.